Our next game takes us to Ames, Iowa, and Jack Trice Stadium. This is a big matchup, in-state rivalry, one that we look forward to every single year. That is the Iowa Hawkeyes on the road take on the number 16 Iowa State Cyclones. Cyclones riding high coming into week 2 as they've already played 2 games under their belt, beating Kansas State in Dublin and then coming home and winning their last game this past Saturday in week 1 against a semifinal FCS team. I'm Nathan Johnston alongside my co-host Brad Hopkins. It's time to break the huddle. Brad, when we look at this game, so many storylines, but I think the biggest being Rocco Becht, right? Everyone wants to see how he jumps forward this year. They make it to the Big 12 championship game last year, and they come up short. They come up short to Arizona State. Probably would have made the playoff if they won that game. Brad, I'll turn it over to you. Give me your initial take on this matchup as we head into Saturday. Fox at 12 p.m. and Iowa State currently favored by 3.5.
Nate, I'm glad you mentioned Rocco Becht. Look, if you watched, if you've been watching, our show, I picked Kansas State in Farmageddon in week 1 in that showdown in Dublin. And Nate, I got to say, Rocco Becht was very impressed with me. He had command of the offense. He's obviously been in this Matt Campbell system, this Matt Campbell offense. He's been the starter now for a few years, but he has really impressed me. 5 touchdowns on the year. He has just got full command. He's playing with a lot of confidence right now, and I am just extremely impressed with what he is doing. Nate, that's the matchup to me. I feel like we pick this game every year, and we know that Iowa is going to. This is no disrespect. We know Iowa's probably going to struggle to move the football. It's really the case of can Iowa's defense, can they hang in there long enough? Can they manufacture some, turnovers? Can they continue to win the field position? Can they keep Iowa State's offense, at bay, to try to just manufacture points? They've got a tall task. I wouldn't say this Iowa State rushing game is super dynamic, but they're going to have their hands full with Rocco Becht on Saturday.
Yeah, my initial take on this one, Brad, is 2 key factors to look at when you're breaking down this game. Number 1, Iowa loves to run the ball. They're not a pass team. They're kind of one-dimensional. I mean, I believe they're running it over 70% of the time right now. I know it's been one game, but listen, Iowa's always been like that, right? You got your corn-fed boys up front. They depend on the run game. They're not really pass-heavy at all. And then you look at Iowa State. They're more of the balanced team, right? They're kind of the 50, maybe 54, 46 team when it comes to pass run. And when you got a quarterback like Rocco Becht, why wouldn't you, right? And then you got a running back like Carson Hansen, who I know you'll talk about as well. Big body boy, 6'2", 220. I mean, just an absolute bowling ball to go against this Iowa defense. But the Iowa defense is the storyline to me as well, because they've got a defensive front that can play ball, and they're very good up front. To me, they win the matchup up front against this Iowa State offensive line who has struggled tremendously. And Brad, I just want to say this too. I think you would agree with me. When we watched that week 0 game against Kansas State, in the beginning of that game, Kansas State was bringing the heat, and they were getting to Rocco Becht a lot. And I remember talking to Rooster, shout out Rooster. We were watching the game together, and we couldn't figure out why they stopped rushing Rocco Becht, because they were getting to him time and time again with the 4 or 5 man blitz, and then, or maybe even 6. Then they stop in the second half, and Iowa State kind of takes over the game. I'm curious to get your thoughts on that and how that plays into this game with Iowa's defensive line being so strong.
Nate, I think I think you bring up a really valid point. As good as Rocco Becht has been, and Nate, we're talking about a guy that he's almost got a 69% completion percentage through 2 games. So he's been very efficient. He's not turned the ball over. But you mentioned that he has been sacked 4 times already, which that's not anything crazy. But I mean, that does kind of that perks your ears up a little bit. I'm glad you mentioned that, and also because Nate, Iowa State's leading rusher Hansen, he has 90 yards on the year. Now, I think you showed last week they were very, very balanced. They tried to do a lot of things, but they are going to have to be more balanced in this game, or else Iowa's going to bring the heat, and they're going to make things very, very tough on Rocco Becht. The Cyclones getting their running game going, that to me is very, very vital. If not, especially if I was able to stop the run with 4 and then drop everyone back into coverage on Rocco Becht, that's where Iowa, to me, can win this football game.
Yeah, they run the ball very efficiently, and their front 5 offensive line are just absolutely massive. And one of the biggest guys to look out for is none other than Cade Piper, a sophomore, 6'4", 290. May not be the biggest guy, but man, are they physical up front. Then you got a right tackle in Jennings Dunker. I mean, 6'5", 315 pounds, senior. So they've got the guys up front. On the other side of the ball, when you look at Iowa State on defense, they've got a couple rush guys, right outside linebacker to, I don't know how to pronounce that name, I want to say Tomato, but it's Tamatoa McDonough. I don't know. I know I'm going to get shredded in the comments for that one, but the point that I'm trying to make is the secondary and the corners outside of Williams for Iowa State are really weak. I mean, it's really bad for them. The offensive line for Iowa State can hold their own, but again, not great. I look back to the film for Iowa State versus Kansas State in that first half. Brad, I mean, Kansas State should have won that game, in my opinion. I'm just throwing that out there. If they had continued with the blitz like they had in the first half, I think they win that game by 7. But I'll turn it back over to you. Are you concerned about that, about the secondary of Iowa State, even though we haven't seen Mark Gronowski, who we love from the FCS, making his big debut in that rivalry?
I'll be honest, I'm not. I mean, I think you got to remember Iowa State plays in the Big 12, right? So they've got a secondary that is, they're going to be definitely tested more later this year. I do think you bring up a good point, though. They gave up some plays, right? Especially in that second half to Avery Johnson, who didn't impress me as a passer, but he made some passes. But we're talking about Mark Gronowski, who, like you brought up another good point. We're very, very high of transferring from South Dakota State, but 44 yards last week, 8 of 15 passing. And I personally don't think they have the weapons at receiver. And it always feels like they've got some guys at tight end. But Nate, to me, this is a game where Iowa State's like, okay, this is a chance for our secondary to get right. It's a chance for the secondary to get their confidence really going before they face some very, very electric passing games in Big 12 play. But my take from Iowa State, I don't think there's much to worry about in their secondary. I think they can mix up coverages, give different looks, maybe even walk a safety down, and I think this is a get right game for them a little bit.
Yeah, on one end, it's going to be, very spread out for Iowa State, right? On the other side, I think Iowa comes into this game wanting to play bully ball. How do we keep Rocco back off the field as much as possible? How do we create those 8, 9, 10 minute drives down the field to really burn the clock? Is it going to be enough to where Mark Gronowski can make the plays? Because I think, to your point, he's going to have to make a play in this game, right? Like, yes, they're going to be able to run the ball well. I think they have the edge up front in the trenches, but at some point he will face a 3rd and 7, a 3rd and 12, right? Maybe a holding call, maybe a false start. It's going to happen, especially in an environment like Ames, Iowa. So with that being said, we know how these two teams match up against each other. Who do you have coming out on top in this in-state rivalry between Iowa and Iowa State?
Give me the Cyclones in this one, and I think ultimately it comes down to that Iowa defense. We know it's good. We know what they're capable of. I think you're going to start to see late in the third quarter and the fourth quarter, the Iowa offense is not going to be able to sustain drives, and I think they're going to wear down. And I think eventually Rocco Becht starts making plays. Eventually, that Iowa State run game starts to get more consistent and take over. I'm going to take the Cyclones in this one.
Yeah, Brad, I want so badly to pick Iowa in this one, right? But the reality is they're one-dimensional. They run the ball very, very well, but they can't throw the ball. If they're going to win this game, they're going to have to create turnovers on defense. And listen, that could very well happen, right? We could look back on this game and go, holy crap, Rocco Becht fumbles the ball, scoop and score. Rocco Becht throws a pick six, because we know that Iowa defense is going to show up. Curious about the special teams too. We haven't really talked about that, but it always seems like Iowa's got a hidden gem back there at punt returner that can make a few men miss. But in the end, I just think Iowa State's too balanced. Matt Campbell has a lot riding on this game. They've won the last, I believe, 3 out of 5 in this rivalry matchup. They've won a lot. And Iowa has dominated this series overall in past history, but in most recent history, Iowa State has taken the edge in this one. So give me the Cyclones at home. This is a big game for Matt Campbell. Listen, if Iowa State loses this game, could be some chatter going on about the hot seat reheating for Matt Campbell. Because listen, if there's one game you can't lose during the season, it's against your in-state rivalry in Iowa. Cyclone fans, Hawkeye fans, let us know down in the comments who you think comes out on top in this in-state beautiful rivalry in the Midwest in Ames, Iowa, on Fox at 12 p.m. between the Hawkeyes and the Cyclones. Be sure to subscribe down below, like this video, share it with your friends, and turn on that bell notification so you can stay up to date when we post our latest content. What's up, Break the Huddle fans? Be sure to tune in this Friday night, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, for our Break the Huddle After Dark episode. You see the helmets in front of me. The Louisville Cardinals take on the James Madison Dukes, and we'll be here to break it all down for you live at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. We'll see you then. It's time to break the huddle.